Put that leading edge finishing tape around the wingtip bow here day before yesterday. Put it on from the underside, and when I flipped it over, it wasn't right. You can see here's the seam right here where the fabric overlaps. The bottom fabric comes up and overlaps the top fabric here. Well, I didn't leave enough of this seam tape on the top to overlap that, to cover up that seam. But yesterday I took that tape off of there and redid it. Well, I've got it on there now, and it looks really good now on the top. Well, I just went over it this morning with the iron and cleaned up all of the spots that didn't get down quite right, and got it all, the edges smoothed out and stuff, and it is pretty nice right now. Had a little bit of problems right here where this long leading edge tape overlapped the bias tape as it come around the wingtip. It kind of curled and stuff there after I'd pulled this all back, and everything kind of stretched out. I've got that all cleaned up and down, and it looks pretty darn good. So I've just spent the last hour and a half, so maybe 2 hours, going over all of this with the iron, getting this all down, getting all the wrinkles and stuff out of this and tuning the edges down. Then I went over the whole wing again. Well, first I did this. This is the aileron false bar here, and I put the finish tape on the bottom of it the other day, and once I flipped the wing over, I had to glue this section of it down here where it overlaps over the top, and I'm happy with that now. And that took a little bit of ironing to get a couple of the little bubbles and stuff out of it. Like there, had a little wrinkle there, and I smoothed up the pinked edges on that. I've got a piece of vinyl right here as a bumper. This is where the aileron cable comes down, and it bumps onto this trailing edge of this wing right here when the flap, or when the aileron goes down and bangs into it. It didn't have anything on there before, so I made up this little patch to go on there. And so anyway, I went over this whole thing. I went over the whole wing again. I probably need to go over this trailing edge here, this aileron false bar, one more time with one more coat of polybrush, and then I'll go over this wingtip bow section one more time with polybrush on this top before we flip it over and do the bottom. So this wing leading edge tape is pretty good. I've gone over it with a couple coats of polybrush now, and I just went over it with the iron again, and it's pretty nice. So would think we'd be able to turn it over and start finishing up on the bottom on that wingtip bow, but I got one more thing I want to do here on the top while I've got it tipped up this way. I've set that fuel tank in there. I'm not going to leave it in there for everything now. I've just got it set in there for now. We've got places on the fuel tank where there's penetrations that go through this butt rib. Like this is the outlet here for the fuel gauge. There's another one down there on the bottom, right down there. And then this is the inlet where the fuel gets pumped in from the belly tank. And then there's an outlet on the back side on the bottom, and an outlet here on the front side on the bottom. And then down here underneath, if I can find it, there is a quick drain, a drain for the fuel tank. So I want to make grommets for all of these. There's going to be penetrations through this butt rib here for those. Well, of course, we've got the electrical wires and stuff here. The aileron cable will come out here. Got the pitot tubes coming out here. And then back here will be the flap cable. Actuator cable will come out. So anyway, I want to make grommets for all those. I'm not going to cut those holes out or anything yet. Oh, I've got a couple more places where there's going to be penetrations. There'll be a penetration here somewhere for the cable that goes for my VHF antenna, my marine VHF antenna, and then one up here, and this is where the GPS antenna goes. It penetrates in right in here. Those are both attached to the fuel tank cover. So anyway, I'm going to figure out where all of those places things go and make doublers, make grommets for those, so when we get this all put up on the airplane, it doesn't look like it's been hacked out with an axe like it did before. There are different grommets that you can buy to glue onto the fabric for different openings that you want in the fabric. For example, the most common one, of course, is these rings, these round ones for the inspection holes, inspection covers. And they've got this grommet here, this teardrop one, shaped one, goes on top of the wing where the aileron cable comes out on the top of the wing. This square one, this goes on the bottom of the wing near where one of the struts attach and where the pulley is for the lower aileron cable in the wing. And of course this one goes over the wing strut fittings. Anyway, you can buy those. What I'm doing now is I'm making some custom grommets to go in the butt rib for the fuel line outlets and some of the other openings that are going into the butt rib. What I've got here is just cottage cheese container lids. Some of these are just going to be 1-inch openings, so I've taken a 1-inch hole punch, punched a hole in them. I thought about cutting them out with a pinking shears, but it doesn't have to be that way. It can just be with regular scissors, and they're not going to be perfect by any means. They get glued onto the fabric to help prevent the fabric from fraying where you have a penetration in it, so doesn't look quite so bad. I'll hack these out here right now, and then I'll trim them up a little bit better when I get them out to where I can handle them. Oh, I tried to get the paper label off of those. I tried some paint thinner and that didn't work. I tried some acetone and that didn't work. Glue on this stuff is probably what they should have used to glue the tiles on the space shuttle with. I don't know. Alright, I've got 3 of these cut out of one lid, and so I've got the upper and lower fuel tank gauge, and then I've got one for where the aileron cable comes out. I'll make 2 more for my fuel tank drains, and then I need a couple for where the antenna cables go into the wing root there for the antenna cables, and I'll need one for the flap cable. I don't know whether I'm going to put any on those other things that I've got coming out already or not, with the electrical wires and the pitot tubes. I got some of these rings, what do I got here, 7 of these rings made up. I've got to have a special long one to go where that fuel tank line goes for the filler that comes from the belly tank and goes into the top of the fuel tank. I got to have an elongated one for that, where that fuel line comes out of there. So I got to make a special one for it. I'm going to go ahead and get some polytack and glue these up where they go. And I think I mix up a little bit of polybrush, run another coat of polybrush around that wingtip bow. Then I think I'm going to go out and get another load of sand. It's 4 o'clock, so it'll be 5 o'clock by then. I can get one more load of sand. I've got enough sand now. I got another last load last night to finish out the bed for my chambers for my septic drain. But I've got to get enough sand to cover those up once I get them put in. But I also have to get enough sand to lay a bed down to put my bouncy house up for doing my painting. So still lots of sand to haul, and I might as well get that done while I can. Like I said, I'll put this stuff on and then put some polybrush on those finishing tapes there, the last bit on the finishing tapes on this top side, and while that stuff is setting up I can go get a load of sand or so, maybe 2, we'll see how it goes.